Now, time of whether it's going to be on or off is something healthcare facility managers, surgeons, nurses, they understand on and off. I'm going to have electricity, I'm not going to have electricity. They don't necessarily care about an electrical engineer or energy engineer's fancy terminology of the buffer of the system or the percentage of capacity shortage based on energy versus time. They just want to know, when is it going to fail and when am I going to have power? So these are the plots, 6 different types of electricity failure patterns. One of the reasons we chose these 4 publications was because they represent fundamental electricity failure patterns. And we talk about this in the paper. So let's do a little activity. You could do on your own on the computer if you're watching this. We want to take these 6 systems and we want to match them to their energy system. So the first one is the grid and diesel. So the grid's on, there's a backup diesel generator. Which one of these energy healthcare system examples, the failure patterns, matches that? Which one do you think it would be? Then the wind solar battery converter, which pattern do you think it would be? The hydro only, solar battery converter, load shedding. So the grid's supposed to be on, but it's not. They have to share the power between cities. They don't have enough for the entire country. And there's no backup system at this healthcare facility. So what kind of electricity failure pattern would look like that? And then the diesel generator only, when you're in an incredibly rural area and you depend on a diesel generator and the diesel generator fails, or you were with the grid, but the main transmission line fails, it's going to take 6 months to get a new transmission line up. So you're running everything off of a diesel generator and it overheats, it fails. These are all real scenarios, real possibilities. So I'll give you a few seconds to look at that and then we'll move forward. And you might want to pause in the presentation and think about it, or you can just go forward and see what the answer is. So I'll give you a hint. Type 5 is load shedding. You know you're going to have electricity from, say, hour 14 to hour 24. The diesel generator only, and the diesel generator fails, is the example of a hospital where the medical superintendent asked me, what would you do if you were in this situation? And the ethical dilemma was, medical ethical dilemma was, that the technician was saying the generator's overheating and the coils in the generator are going to melt together, short each other, and then not work at all. These diesel generators are typically in places for security, in a brick building, and there's not always really good airflow. So in the middle of the day, when it's really hot, there's no air conditioning, and so these heats can get extreme. If the medical superintendent turned off the diesel generator, 11 children die who were on an oxygen concentrator. Now, this is the same example that'll come in another hospital that we'll talk about later. But the medical ethical dilemma is, if you turn it off now, these 11 children will for sure die. They have tuberculosis, they're having trouble breathing. When they're off the oxygen, their oxygen plummets in their system and it's too low of oxygen, their brain can't handle it. So they need extra oxygen. Case 1. Case 2 is you don't turn it off, you wait. But then the generator fails and it takes months to get a new huge generator shipped to you. And in that time, potential patients die. So the medical superintendent told me the first choice, he chose to keep it on, it failed, and then he took data of how many patients died, not making it to their hospital, but then not making it to the next hospital because they couldn't see them. And the second time that decision came, he turned off the diesel generator, let it cool down. Was there a consequence? Yes, there was a consequence. Patients died. Now, the other 4 systems are maybe less obvious, but we'll go ahead and look at them. The first one is fascinating, and we have another research paper coming out on this topic. People find this one to be the most problematic, but it's actually very exciting. And that is that when solar fails, when you have a capacity shortage in solar, it's not happening at night. It's happening in the middle of the day. And if you think about that, it's in the middle of the day when you have the largest power load. So if your power load has grown, or you have accepted a capacity shortage to save money, your capacity shortage is going to happen when your power load grows, and your power load grows during the day. So if it grows, it's going to go off and then on as the battery charges. Once it's charged, then it goes back off, and then it goes on, and then it goes off, because you're at this point at which it can't really provide enough electricity, because remember, you accepted a capacity shortage. What people didn't understand is it's all throughout the day. So this is the result of their accepted capacity shortage as a function of hours of the day and days of the year. Now the hydro only is interesting. So you can clearly see when there's rain, when it's a wet season, you have electricity. And when there's a dry season, you'll still have water flowing. So you can still run the hydroelectric generator. But it's only going to be about, I think it's 49% capacity shortage based on time. So what are the consequences to that type of electrical failure pattern? What are the statistics involved? What's the implications if I'm about to do a medical procedure? Most people will tell you, well, just don't have that procedure. That is not appropriate. Given the amount of failures and how little electricity we have in these regions, we need to have backups to backups. And furthermore, we cover in the paper how many times electricity failures during natural disasters have happened in the United States. And this particular risk chart can help one even solve electricity problems in the US. So the discussion is not, oh, we'll just don't have failures. You will have failures. It's how do you prepare for those failures? And what should be the response to those failures? There's a great example of the 2003 blackout. We have a citation from an anesthesiologist who talks about people coming in and saying, the generator's not working, the grid's off, your batteries are depleting, finish the surgery. And him just like, there has to be a better example. They're like, nope, we don't have anything. Finish the surgery, finish the surgery. He said he put him under so much stress, and he couldn't imagine being at the major medical institution that he was at, that he didn't know what his options were. This is what this research paper is talking about. In the type 3, the actual results came from the solar wind battery conversion, which is very interesting because you have hybridization is always something that will decrease your capacity shortage greatly. And we'll talk about that more in the policy recommendations. And the next one is the randomness from when the grid fails and the diesel generator they choose not to turn on for a while. They basically wait until they have a whole bunch of medical procedures to do, and then they run the diesel generator for a set of hours, and then they turn it off again. So in this case, it's a very common grid fails and there's a backup diesel generator, but even at those times, they don't run it. They can't run it. The costs are too expensive. The load is too small. They'll be idling the generator.